Hello everybody. If somebody can just give me a hi so I know that it's working. And the chat say hi Susan and hi everyone. I can't read the chat because I'm going to be a bit further away. I just wanted to model my tulip garden shirt, which was a present from Ruth, so thank you very much, Ruth. Not that you're going to see too much of it because obviously you're not looking at me. But isn't it great? There you go. It's quite chilly today, so I've got quite a few layers on. So let's get dressed again. Now the gardens are looking brilliant. Really great. So it's worked out well for my one visit with you online for the year. And let me show you. So hello everybody and thank you very much for joining. Let me get all my stuff. Let me show you who's joining us. Some very special guests. Hello Adrian. Ta-da! Okay. I'm calling them a mum and son, but whoever wins them can reinvent them to whoever and whatever they want them to be. So let's pop them back in safely. Hello Marlene. Okay, let's get on with the show. Look, I've had to bring this as well, so that's something for me to stumble over and drop and what have you. But who knows, maybe I'll need it. Okay, let's just have a check out these beautiful daffodils. I love these ones with the, hi Audrey, with the peachy trumpet. Those are some that I've got growing outside my house. Now, what I'm going to do is walk around and show you a bunch of stuff, but obviously I'm going to tell you stories as well, because that's just what I like to do on tours. So hi everyone, welcome to Keukenhof Gardens. Now, as far as the gardens go, Keukenhof, as I'm sure many of you know, means kitchen garden. Zoom in here. Kitchen garden, because that's exactly what it was. It was a garden that produced fruit and vegetable for a countess. Not that she lived here all the time, but here's a picture of her. This is the type of woman who would have owned a type of place like this. Not that it was quite like this, of course, but this is way back in the 1400s. And she was the Countess Jacoba van Brienen. And she was real sort of upper crust, low country royalty, or aristocracy rather. So it was her pad, her hunting ground in the, oh, I'm trying to get rid of the picture. Oh, come on. So you would have thought I could do this by now. There we go. So she was married to a Count of Holland, and she was a countess in her own right. So she was very a daughter of the Duke of Burgundy and the Countess of Flanders. So she was the business. In the 1600s, there was a wash of money through here. That's during the Dutch Golden Age. Let's fly you over the top. And this area was owned by a governor of the Dutch East India Company. His name happened to be Adrian Martin's own Blok. And he had a manor house built, and he called it Keukenhof Castle. It wasn't really a castle, but hey. Now, let me just think where I wanted to go. I'm walking in the wrong direction. I wanted to take you this way and show you something which is really cool. Okay, so then in the 1800s, so we're talking like 1850s, it was owned by another fancy family, Baron and Baroness van Pallant. And they're the ones who had the gardens laid out by the father and son architects who laid out the Vondelpark in Amsterdam, the Zocher pair, and they gave the garden its kind of, sorry, I'm just busy with something. It's amazing how people just walk straight in front of you. Its current style. And then since 2003, That's when the last lord of the Keukenhof estate died, and the garden was then put into a charitable foundation, and that owns the castle and the gardens and the surrounding estates. That's known as the Count Karel de Graaf van Linden Foundation. And it's open to the public for 8 weeks of the year, as I'm sure you know, for a tulip festival. And at other times you can hire it for private events. The garden is 32 hectares, that's 79 acres, and it's just tucked behind the dunes, behind the sand dunes, in slightly elevated soil in what's called the Dune and Bulb region, the Down and Bolenstreek. And it gets to about 26,000 visitors a year, 1.5 million. 26,000 a day, sorry, and about 1.5 million during that 8-week period. But the reason I stopped here is because it's looking so good, and I love these flowers here. They're really my favorites, and I love when you can get up to them like this and just underneath, like for photos or shots like this, it's like underneath the canopy of them. And these flowers are called Fritillaria imperialis, crowned fritillarias. And I love them. And let's have a look at these ones, mixed very nicely with the purple tulips. Actually, I prefer it with just, not that, it's like more of a difference in height. If you look here, this is really what I mean. It'll be beautiful against the purple, where you kind of get under the canopy of it. Now, the reason I wanted to start here is because of the statue. So here we have Apollo. And there's a reason they've got Apollo here with his discus in amongst the fritillaria. So here it is, story time. In Greek mythology, Hyacinth was a very handsome Spartan prince. And his really awesome looks attracted the attention of the god Apollo. And they became lovers. Now they got around in Apollo's chariot that was drawn by swans, and Apollo taught his lover the use of the bow, how to make music on the lyre, the art of prophecy, as well as exercising in the gymnasium, which is exactly what you would imagine they would do. And then Apollo was teaching him a game of quoits, that's with a disc like this. And Apollo was showing off, and he threw the disc so hard and so high that it went up into the sky and it cracked the clouds, and it came sort of hurling down to earth, and Hyacinth ran up to it to try and catch it, trying to impress Apollo. But the disc hit the ground and it bounced up, and it actually killed Hyacinth. It fatally wounded him, hitting him in the head. Apollo was devastated. He blamed himself, and he wept, and he actually wished to become mortal so that he could join his lover in death. He actually got over that quite quickly, but he then brought Hyacinth back every day in the form of a hyacinth flower where his blood had spilled. And I realize I'm kind of zooming in on Apollo's butt here, hang on. And the hyacinth flower is not the hyacinth flower of today, but the hyacinth flower that he came back as was thought now to be the Fritillaria imperialis. So, there you go, what a sad story. Another one of Apollo's male lovers was turned into a cypress tree. He also had female lovers. There was Daphne, who he turned into a laurel tree. You don't want to get on the wrong side of him, you'll become Flora. And then he had a fling with Cassandra, a Trojan princess, and he gave her the power of prophecy in return for her sharing his bed. She didn't keep up her side of the bargain. So what he did is he actually left her with the power of prophecy. He didn't take it away. However, he added a little caveat that nobody would ever believe her. Don't mess with Apollo. Anyway, there you go. Let me decide. I was scouting out a route and deciding where to go. Just go for a walk. So, hi everybody. I can concentrate now on the chat a little bit. How many have we got? 65 on. Welcome, welcome, and please don't forget to like the video if you like it, and say something under the video when it's on YouTube. It was definitely dangerous for one's health, Fran, certainly, but not necessarily for your immortality in plant form. Oh, it's so beautiful. This is, I haven't been here for a few days, and the leaves on the trees have now burst into bloom. Last time I was here, the trees were bare. It happened so quickly. Okay, let's talk about the origin of the tulip. It comes from a very unhospitable part of Asia, and I got a photo of that, so let me show you here. This is where the tulip bulb originally comes from. Those two markers I've got on the map. The marker on the right is actually showing Tin Shan and Pamiralai, where the tulip bulb came from, and then further to the left as well, Iran. Okay? So the part on the right is so inhospitable. When I zoomed in on Google Earth, I thought I had it on Google Maps by mistake because everything was just beige and magnolia, and I thought, oh, that's the background color. And actually, that was the color of what's there, because ain't nothing there. It is really sort of barren. And that is why the Romans and the Chinese didn't have a whole lot to do with each other, because there was this impassable area in between where they had very, 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 very harsh winters and blisteringly hot summers as well. And that is where this little spring bulb would just pop up briefly at the one time of year where it wouldn't be frozen to death or it wouldn't be practically melted. And of course the nomadic tribes there loved these because it meant that that terrible winter was over. Look at this nice combination here. Terrible winter was over. So it became a symbol of beauty and endurance. And I know I'm talking about tulips and I'm showing you daffodils, but hey, what the hell? Now, early Islam loved the tulip. It was seen as quite a pious flower. And I'll show you a picture I just took. Oh, but I love these. I've got daffodils and tulips together in my garden now this spring. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I took this picture just half an hour ago because they've got an area here which shows the early tulips, and this is a form of early tulip here. And you see why they were popular in Islam is because they looked like often a bowed head in prayer, like a head with a turban on it that was bowed in prayer. So it was seen as quite a pious flower. Ah, right, so many tulips. Let's go this way. Now the name, tulip. In Persia, the name was, and in Turkish as well, lale, L-A-L-E, lale. And that means red. Look at the red and the blue together. Red or anemone. Okay. Also, there's a God connection because it's the same letters as Allah. So that was something appealing. And then in the 1500s, they made their way to Turkey. These great big ones here. And in the West, we call them tulips after the Turkish word for turban. For one of two reasons. People are not sure why. Maybe because it looks like a turbaned head in prayer, obviously, or before it's opened, but also maybe just because people wore one on the front of their turban. So that's why they associated them with turbans. And They were cultivated in the Black Sea Caucasus since the 1100s. And then the Ottomans were really keen on them. So the Ottomans in Istanbul, particularly Suleiman the Magnificent. And aren't these magnificent? Are these the same as the ones we were just looking at, or were they a bit different, I wonder? Now, Suleiman lived in Istanbul and in Topkapi Palace, the abode of bliss. And he loved tulips. He particularly liked the ones with long tapering leaves, the lily ones. And people would bring them to him, and he had them in the imperial gardens. And that's really where an appreciation for them started. And there was this guy called Carlos Clusius. He was a botanist. He was French, actually. And he worked at the court in Vienna, the Habsburg court in Vienna. And during the time of Maximilian II. And he was very keen on tulips. And then there was the Habsburg ambassador, Bersbeck, to Turkey. And he would go, he'd be in Istanbul and he would be given tulip bulbs as presents. And he would bring them back to Vienna. And Clusius was a botanist. So obviously, he would then end up with all sorts of wonderful tulips. I love these fringed ones. They always remind me of a cocktail with salt around the rim. So like a frozen margarita sometimes. They're actually quite soft, these spikes. They look like they're going to be kind of really hard, but they're not. No, thank you for joining, Marlene. I thought you had an appointment and you weren't going to get the opportunity to try and win the 2 Sliceys. Haha, but here you are. Okay. So anyway, Bersberg brought these back to Vienna. Clusius cultivated them and studied them. And then there was a regime change of Holy Roman Emperors, and Clusius fell from favor, and he ended up moving to Leiden. And that was in the late 1500s, and he brought all these tulip bulbs with him, and he started the botany department of Leiden University. So that's how tulips made their way eventually here to Holland, where they have clearly taken rather well. Let's see, let's find some pretty ones to look at. But they're just pretty ones everywhere. Can dancers. They certainly can. Right, let's just walk through a bit. It's lovely this time of day when it gets a little quieter. Oh, look at the beautiful reflections here on the water. Gorgeous. How's that for a puddle shot? So many different combinations. Phew. What a riot. Oh, those look great down there. I was going to have a look at those bright orangey yellow ones. Oh, Linda, you do see brides here for photos. Definitely, all sorts of, yeah. Wait for these people and not walk through their photo. Okay, so Clusius, studying tulips, found out a few things. He found out how they pollinate. Right, there they're done. Pollinated. You know what I always love is pink blossom trees with blue sky behind. How's that for a jigsaw puzzle? Yeah, the brides would be upstage, wouldn't they? Oh look, these ones had a heavy night, got drunk and collapsed. Whoopsie. Maybe that was the hen party. Let me zoom in and see these. I can't get closer because of the barrier, but they really are quite spectacular. Okay, so what Lucius found out is that tulips, oh, which ones are these? I can't read that far. This is a nice dark one. It's not the Van Gogh and it's not the Queen of the Night, but it's a one almost black one. You don't get black tulips, but they try. But that's getting quite dark. Oh, Stacey, the Tampus ones, yeah. Yeah, it's just a job getting them abroad because, yeah, you got to find a supplier that will post them so they're verified for North America. Yeah, one day. Or oh, Casey, you're just going to have to come and visit me and enjoy mine. That's also an option. Okay, so Boesberg found that when tulips cross-pollinate, because that's one way that they can propagate, that it takes 6 or 7 years for that seed to grow to form a flower. And then, but it actually takes about 20 years before that flower is of a size that we would consider acceptable for a display tulip. So it takes a long time to get there. You know, it's not a quick thing. They tried all sorts of weird things to try and make new types of tulips. What people did is cut the bulbs in half and put them together, 2 different types, to see if that would work. It's like cutting 2 different onions in half and then thinking like, hey, maybe I can just put them together and they'll grow. Of course, it didn't work. They tried some quite good ideas, I think, you know, like trying to grow them in different types of soil or red wine or pigeon poop, whatever, you know. They tried these things and that didn't really work either. What was making the new breeds was the cross-pollination of different types. Now, in nature, you know, in Asia, of course, you would just tend to get one type of tulip next to each other in a place. You wouldn't get different types, but of course in the Sultan's gardens and in other people's gardens you did. And that was how you started to get new ones. And then, of course, bulbs make carbon copies of themselves. So you get the mother bulb, and then it makes what are called offset bulbs. Normally 2. And these are under the ground, and if you lift them up, once they've died down, you'll see that there are a couple of smaller bulbs attached. So that's how they propagate. So 2 different ways. And of course they propagate in the latter way, making a fully formed flower. Now when we farm them here in the fields and they cut the tulip heads off once they've served their purpose, which is to identify which plants have a virus, then you just have the leaf underneath the ground. I mean the leaves feeding the bulb underneath the ground. And that means that the bulb is much stronger than it would have been in the olden days when people were still leaving the flowers on to go to seed. And that's how we can just keep them propagating for ages. Gorgeous. Yeah, Marlene, I've done a tour on the whole growing process. I've actually got it down to a 15-minute video, which I just need to do the commentary on. I've done the editing. So if any of you who aren't subscribed to my channel, if you subscribe, when I do release that video, and I'm really going to try and get it done soon, here's the Queen of the Night, you'll be notified that there's a new video. And that goes through the whole sort of 12-month process. And I just need to do it. Okay, I got to get off my butt and do it, or sit on my butt at my desk and do it. This is where I bought my bulbs from. There's 3 different places to buy bulbs at Keukenhof Gardens, and this is by far the most reasonable one. Very, very reasonably priced, and all of them grew absolutely magnificently. So happy with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the Facebook group, I'll put a photograph of the link to their website, because you don't have to come here. You can order, excuse me, you can order online. All right. Good, I'm just doing a live stream, telling everybody how brilliant your bulbs are. Okay. Wait, have you got a card with the website I can show? Cool, thanks. Yeah, so you come here and you can look through these things, or you can go online, and I just want to live stream the card. So you could do it from home, and what happens is that you buy for 50 euros worth, and then they post them to you, and they arrive in the post, and that's included. Thanks. And then they arrive in October, which is just in the right time for you to plant them. And for those of you who are in the Facebook group, you've seen how successfully all of my bulbs have grown, and they all came from here. So, I'll show you outside. There's a QR code. I hope my phone doesn't try and link up to it now. I'm going to put my thumb over that. Because here is the website. If you go to bulbsandplants.com. Hello, Tom. That is where you get the online version of these catalogs. And yeah, I couldn't be happier. I've actually got this one, I think. So yeah, there you go. Great. Who knows, maybe next time I'm here they'll give me some free bulbs. Okay, excuse me sniffling a little bit. I love these combinations together. These are the little grape hyacinths down here, muscari. And I'm not... I think the garden, I was told, I don't know if it's true, there's actually one garden designer who's in charge of doing the overall planting plan for everything. What an incredible job, and like how fantastic, you know, and creative that must be. What a lovely thing to do. Now, let's see. So tulips had made their way over here to Holland. And then we had the Dutch Golden Age, the 1600s, where tulips were seen as an expensive status symbol. You know, merchants and aristocrats liked them, all the way from Flanders to France. And in those days, a salary of a regular worker would be like 150 francs, say, a year. And you would get fancy ladies in the French court wearing one cut flower, which they bought for 1,000 francs just of an evening. So, you know, those flowers had to come from somewhere. And realize, of course, that we had a wonderful collection here from the tulips that Lucius brought over. A bit of a sad story for him because his tulips were stolen. But they ended up forming the basis of the Dutch tulip stock. Now, I've said it before, and I'm not going to claim that this is my saying. It was an ex-colleague said this brilliant line. He said, what the French make popular, the Dutch make profitable. And they cultivated them and sold them on. There was a particularly popular tulip. Let me show it to you. Here it was called the Semper Augustus. So this was the great object of desire, this tulip, with its white and carmine. Actually had a slightly blue blaze. And it was called a broken tulip because the color was kind of two-tone and broken. It was only discovered in 1933 that this was because of a virus. So it was not a healthy tulip bulb at all. But anyway, there were beautiful tulips grown here. And there's a story that I don't think I've told in detail on a live stream because it was always difficult to share a copy of the painting. But now with Prism, that's easy. So I'd like to talk to you about the story of tulip mania. I'll just walk along slowly here and you can enjoy the view while I'm telling you about it, and then I'll show you the painting. So, the Golden Age. We had a lot of east-west trade, Baltic, Mediterranean shipping. the Dutch East India Company from 1602, and the stock market trading shares from 1611. Now, the whole concept of a return on investment was very, fresh in people's minds, but it was expensive to buy shares in the Dutch East India Company. I'm going to come back to questions after I finish the story, otherwise I'm going to be breaking the narrative too much. So hold with the questions. Shares are expensive in the Dutch East India Company. Still, workers, even cleaning women, got together and they made syndicates and bought little shareholdings. However, it was hard. Workers in those days worked 16-hour days. They made 300 guilders a year maybe, could save 20. And then they thought, well, what about renting some grounds and planting some tulips and just having a go, try and get a bit of money, Social mobility was possible. It wasn't easy, but it was feasible in the Dutch Republic. There are various things that dovetailed at the same time. This was also the golden age of Dutch art. So you had lots of Dutch masters who took on pupils, and they could keep their pupils busy, having them paint catalogues of tulip bulbs, or tulip flowers rather, as all the different ones that were being grown. Well, that was handy. This was a kind of advertising and marketing. And so that was another sort of contributing factor that meant people could buy these things because they could see a lovely catalogue of what they would turn into once they'd grown. And the clever merchants would not put any prices in the catalogues because then, depending on who was looking at it, they could jiggle around with the price a little bit and increase it if they thought they could get more. Okay. Now, people would plant some tulips in the ground in October, and then they would auction the next year's crop. This happened in local taverns. They were very jolly affairs. Drinks were sent around after each sale. The rare bulbs were sold by individual bulbs, and the more common ones by the bed. And something unusual happened in 1633. A lovely house in the beautiful town of Hoorn was suddenly swapped for 3 exotic tulip bulbs. Like, what the hell? And they were now seen as currency. And then in 1633 as well, something else happened. The bubonic plague swept through, and 1 in 8 people in Haarlem died. Now, what happens when so many people die is that there are less tradesmen around, and the ones that are around can charge more money for their services. So you started to get people with a bit of cash sloshing around. And this was even more encouraging to them to then have a punt and rent some land and grow some tulips. Now, the way the auctions worked is that they'd be planted and then they'd be auctioned, and you'd win the auction and you'd pay 5 or 10% of the contract price. And you'd pay the rest the next spring, once the actual bulbs were taken out of the ground and you could see how big they were, because there would be an adjustment of the final price. But what did traders like to do? Sit around twiddling their thumbs? No, they like to trade. So people started buying other people's contracts. And it was amazing. You couldn't lose money. You just buy a contract from somebody for more than they paid for it, and the next day you could sell it for more. It was amazing. What a license to print money, yay. Okay. And then on the 5th of February, 1637, at an auction in Alkmaar of the estate of a deceased man, Wouter Winkel, his wonderful collection of tulips, and he had a magnificent collection, was auctioned at record prices for his orphaned children. This one here, let me show you. This one here was called the Admiral van Enkhuizen, and this went for 5,200 guilders. And the 70 lots made, in today's money, somewhere between 5 and 15 million. We can call that US or euros, it doesn't really matter. And a bog standard bed of yellow tulips that would normally have gone for 20 guilders was making 1,200. And not surprisingly, at some point, people just stopped buying. One morning, people stopped. And that was a long, slow crash. It took about a week to spread around the country in the news, and the whole market just collapsed. And it bounced backwards and forwards between the courts, and eventually all of those contracts were turned into options, and you could just pay a small sum to be released from it. And all of that background was to show you a painting. Here we go. This is an analogy painting on tulip mania. So you get, let me try and lose the chat so I can see the painting more clearly. You've got all sorts of things here. Obviously the people are behaving stupidly, so that's why they're portrayed as monkeys. You get monkeys pointing at tulips, listing the valuable ones. There's a deal being made. There's bulbs being weighed. There's a lavish dinner going on the left. And a nice little detail actually, the guy who's writing down the sale, he has an owl on his shoulder. And this is meant to show stupidity, because whilst an owl is wise at night, it's stupid in the daytime. There's somebody being carried off to his grave at the background, and a funny little thing, sorry, it's a little bit lavatorial, but hey. Bottom right, you have a monkey urinating on the tulips and the contracts because they were so worthless. So, I wanted to share this painting for ages, and it was too difficult, you know, when I just had to point a camera at it. So, there you go, that's the story of tulip mania. There are different versions of it, and longer and shorter versions, but anyway. Now, looking really great should be what I call the river of no return. Love the river, it's here every year. And I'll just... Okay. How's about that? Oh, let me get the chat back. Beautiful, eh?
Dat vind ik nu echt prachtig.
I'm just waiting for some people to take a photo. There are some people photographing friends there. It's a funny moment. Okay, let's see. Where should we go? Look at these red ones here. They're brilliant. Flying over them. Whee! How's that for making everyone dizzy a sec? Okay, let's see. I think I'll go this way. Are there any questions now that we're in this nice quiet part? If you want to just ask them again, I'll see if I can answer them if there are any. Wow, it really is in full bloom. Goodness gracious me. Such a good combination, the yellow and the purple. Oops. Oh, thank you, Marlene. Now let's have a bit of fun. I just took the stand off so I could go close to the ground, but let's pop the stand back on and do a family photo. Okay, let's see. Pop it down there. Now the story of these little Sliceys is that I bought this one, I don't know, especially because it's so cute. And then my wonderful mother-in-law keeps sending me Sliceys, and she just happened to send this one to me yesterday, which looked like a mum to the little cheese one. So, the artist was Van Breugel the Younger. So there you go. Oops, Slicey's and I've got muddy feet. But anyway, okay. Let's walk. Do they trim them? Yeah, in the gardens here they will trim. They don't want dead flowers lying around. They put a huge amount of effort into the gardens every year. Oh, I love this combo here. Let's take the stand off again. Oh, look at these ones. So you got the Muscari, you got like the Rembrandts, the purple ones, which are probably I think called Prince, after the singer Prince. Obviously there's more than one type of purple one, but oh, let's see, it says here. Oh, okay, it just says flag mix. So you've got like the mixture of the white and the purple in the Rembrandtish one. And it is actually starting to rain. How handy that I brought my see-through umbrella. That doesn't interfere too much. Oh, come on. With the lighting for the camera. Oh, thanks, Tom, for that. There's various versions of that painting, often by him. Okay. Stunning, stunning, stunning. It's been a very early year, you know. Last week when I was around here, they were already chopping some of the fields, but I did actually see quite a few fields still in full bloom as I was driving here, I'm pleased to say. These look very much like the Darwin hybrid. So there was a very, very important Dutch hybrid, probably the most important one, called the Darwin, and that was made in the 1970s. And that was at a time when it was established that if you made a new hybrid of tulip, you could have the rights to that flower, the royalties, for 20 years. So that is why Dutch tulip growers have this a huge incentive to make new breeds, because they get a 20-year benefit. So if you can make one that is really popular, yeah, you really benefit enormously from that. And you know how, I mean, it takes such a long time, eh? I mean, it said it takes about 20 years from cross-pollination to get to the stage where it's producing a flower like the ones that we're looking at here. So it's really something they have to plan ahead. Oh, I love this so much. That just seems like such a weird name for this tulip. It's called the bodybuilder. I mean, seriously? Okay. Oh. You know, I almost didn't bring an umbrella. But then I know better than to trust Dutch weather. Ooh. Goodness. Azaleas all over the place. What happens after the tulips are done is you get azaleas. One of the reasons that I don't do in-person tours in the gardens in May is it tends just to be azaleas. And I do find azaleas a little dull. So if I'm saying to people, I can't say to people, well, it's a tulip tour and all you see is azaleas. And this actually turns into the most beautiful wisteria over the trellis, but that's not quite there yet. Okay, so let's just zoot across here. April showers very much. This is very good for clearing the pathways. And we'll catch some of the flowers up yonder. Ooh. Oh, I can show you some fields actually. Oh, they just shut the door of the windmill. That's a shame. I guess you can't go in. You can go in. Oh, why is that shut? Oh, you can go in. Oh, is it closed? Okay, thanks. Oh, damn it. Okay. Well, let's just have a look at the fields from here. Oh, look at that beautiful moody sky. Let me just check that the lens is okay. Somewhere I got a tissue. Can you hear the wind on the umbrella? So I'm just struggling to get a tissue out. One-handed. There we go. Okay. Okay, so what the devil happened after Tulip Mania? Well, the market kind of rectified itself, as markets do, and it's with the bog standard ones, they started to make sort of normal money again, and with the exotic ones, they still made the big bucks. In the 1700s. You actually had a bit of a bubble. Oh, I wanted to show you something as well on the painting, which I'd noticed just today. Let me show you the painting again. Check out, they've even got bubbles here, so they were even calling it a bubble there. Look at that monkey, he's blowing bubbles. How cool is that? Oh gosh. Okay, there we go. And it's funny, we've got bits of sun coming through as well now. So yeah, we've got a hyacinth bubble as well. And then from the 1800s, that saw a big demand in early flowering and cut flowers. So that was a whole, I'm just going to run back to the field because I see some blue sky and I think that could make a really interesting combination with the red tulips. Everyone aside, guide coming through. Okay. There you go, how's about that? There was this whole cut flower industry as well, and early flowering tulips. Now, from the mid-1800s, there was a big change, and this was with steam power, because with steam power, suddenly it was possible to drain land more consistently, because tulips need well-drained soil. So you could drain fields which would have otherwise been too muddy and grow tulips there. That's how they ended up growing them up north in the Beemster, for example. So I just need to pop you down over here and do up my umbrella again. So glad I bought that. Right. Okay. And So yeah, this is why tulips are grown in so many different places now. I see we've got 80 people on board. That's something of a record, I think. So sorry to repeat myself for those of you who've been on for a while, but if you could like the video, I'd appreciate it a lot. And yeah, there's sort of a buy me a coffee and PayPal links and stuff in the description if you feel like making a donation to my cause. But let's have a look here. Nice combinations over here. Paintings, obviously tulips are painted a lot. There's a few famous painters that spring to mind. Let me show you. First of all, this is Monet. Monet came here and he painted before he was famous and before he'd made it. So here is one of his paintings of tulips near The Hague. Here is Van Gogh, Van Gogh, however you want to say it, we don't mind. His tulip fields. And also he painted this beautiful painting of a vase of Fritillaria. Fritillaria imperialis. Such a wonderful style that he had. Hey Todd, welcome. Nice to see you. Okay, so I want to tell you another story now. I'm going to read it to you. I told you the Ottomans, the Sultans, loved their tulips. Suleiman the Magnificent. But in the Ottoman Empire from 1703 to 1730, there was a sultan called Sultan Ahmed. And he is the one who was crazy about tulips. So much so that his extravagance led to his downfall. He wasted the national treasure to such an extent there was a revolt, but he did have style. So here goes. Okay. I'm quoting from a wonderful book that told of this story. Each spring, for a period of weeks, the imperial gardens were filled with prized tulips. Turkish, Dutch, Iranian, all of them shown to their best advantage. Tulips whose petals had flexed too wide were held shut with fine threads hand-tied. Most of the bulbs were grown in place, but these were supplemented by thousands of cut stems held in glass bottles. The scale of the display was further compounded by mirrors placed strategically around the garden. Each variety was marked with a label made from silver filigree. In place of every fourth flower, a candle, its wick trimmed to tulip height, was set into the ground. Songbirds in gilded cages supplied the music, and hundreds of giant tortoises, carrying candles on their backs, lumbered through the gardens, further illuminating the display. All the guests were required to dress in colours that flattered those of the tulips. At the appointed moment, a cannon sounded. The doors of the harem were flung open, and the Sultan's mistresses stepped into the garden, led by eunuchs bearing torches. The whole scene was repeated every night for as long as the tulips were in bloom. He knew how to party. He certainly knew how to party. Let's go and have a look through this little passage here. Is intriguing me. Thank you, Janice. Oh, it's so beautiful with the sun on the wet tulips. Oh, it's amazing. And check this out. It's almost time for our quiz. Ha-ha. Okay. This looks like a Van Gogh painting. Wow, how's about that? Oh, and the sun on the field now. Cool. Hey, let's really make it like a Van Gogh painting with an outline of a Japanesey-style tree in the foreground. How's about that? Marvelous. Great, great, great. Beautiful. I love it when a plan comes together. Oh, gorgeous. Okay. If you hear me go splish, splish, splash, splosh, you know what's happened. Okay, now this is a big quiz today, okay, like big prizes, yeah? Let me take out the prizes so you can see them again, those of you who haven't. I'll take out mother and son Slicey, or however way you want to gender them once they make it to your house. Oh, let's do a puddle shot here though. Doesn't work terribly well. Okay, now, I think this is a good place for the Slicey family and a very good place for our little quiz. Okay, so the thing with the quiz, everyone can answer because it's a special time. Even if you've got a Slicey, you're very welcome to partake. So here are the two. Have we got them in shot? Yes. Okay, so as I said, everyone can participate. And because there is a lag often, excuse me, with the chat, the winner is going to be the first person with the correct answer on the chat on YouTube when it comes up about 24 hours after the tour, if there's any doubt now. Okay, so if we're not sure, about 24 hours later, the chat from this tour will go live, and that's how we see who won the Slicey. So the question is, for this week's 2 Sliceys, the question is, with the painting that I showed you of Tulip Mania, it featured lots of monkeys. What other animal was featured in that painting? What other animal was featured in the Tulip Mania painting that was not a monkey? Let's see. And Emily and Carol appear to be the winners. It was indeed an owl. I don't think Emily and Carol have a Slicey, do you? But there are lots, so I can't say for sure it's Emily and Carol. As I said, we're going to have to wait for the wisdom of the chat. Sorry about that, but it's the only way I can really do it. And then we will see. And then I've got to have a way of contacting you. So, there's the Facebook group, my and Lee's Facebook group, Mark and Lee's Splendid Amsterdam Adventures. And you can contact me that way. Okay, so, oops. Sorry, I'm just battling now with the umbrella again. Okay, so, okay. Right, I wanted to show you the shirt again for those of you who haven't seen my special tulip shirt, which is, and this is all falling down, hang on a second. Compliments of Ruth, who gave me this rather wonderful tulip shirt for my tulip tours. So let's get me with the tulips in the background. Great. Okay. I don't know if you can hear the bells in the background. It's lovely. Tinkly bells. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining, everybody. And take care. And I'm aiming to be back next Monday with Detailed Amsterdam again. And yeah, I think we'll call it a day. So bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining. You take care and have a good day or good evening wherever you are. Bye.